This one section of your rent agreement gives the landlord the most leverage and gives us the most liability. People negotiate on the cost, how much it's going to cost me per month, but they forget and they don't focus on the one single thing that's going to ruin your personal finances beyond your business and can majorly set you back in life is, I think, the most important part of the lease. Let me scratch that. I don't think it. It is the most important part of the lease. Hi, I'm Tule, and welcome to the Simple Profit Podcast, where we focus on one thing and one thing only, and that is to provide you insights and strategies on how to build million-dollar grossing businesses. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to our podcast on YouTube or your favorite place where you listen to your podcast. In this episode, we're exploring one of the most important decisions that I have made, and you probably have made, for our business, and that is securing and negotiating our rent terms. In episode 2 of our podcast, we touch base on what I believe are 3 of the most important key performance indicators or data points to look at our business health. Rent effectiveness is at the top of this list. And if you have not had a chance to listen to that episode, I highly recommend for you to do so because it's going to provide more context and pretty much tie in everything that we're going to talk about in this episode. In our line of business, everything starts with rent costs and rent terms. If you sign on a lease that is not favorable, it will crush your business in the long term. And worse yet, it can even kill your personal finances. This is why negotiation matters. Extremely important from what we do. So before we start, I just want to really recommend that if you're going to do lease negotiation or redo your lease terms, work with an experienced attorney, okay? Because laws differ from state to state. But for you, knowing the big rocks of your lease term and what I'm covering in these next 3 episodes of our podcast, and not leaving it all to your attorney is what I'm recommending. Because at the end of the day, your attorney is not the one that's liable for your lease or operating your business. You are, okay? You cannot just delegate something as big as lease negotiations to just an attorney. You got to be the one that's involved in all of the negotiations. And your attorney is the professional, the law professional that is there to back you up and fill in the gaps where you may have missed. Very important thing to understand when you're negotiating and talking about lease. When it comes to lease negotiations, I've done a fair amount of these and I've helped tutor people through these as well. Typically, what I hear and what studio operators take a look at are 4 things, okay? Rent cost. How much is my monthly rent? How long is my lease? The lease term, okay? Any free startup rent and how much it costs to build out the space, right? Those are typically the things that people look at and people negotiate on, the cost, how much it's going to cost me per month. But they forget and they don't focus on the most important part of the lease. This one section of your rent agreement gives the landlord the most leverage and gives us the most liability. So let me give you an example. Let's say you sign on a lease for 5 years, and let's say the lease is going to cost you $10,000 per month, and you're going to go ahead and personally guarantee it. Or worse yet, maybe you're a co-signer for a lease for somebody else. That's the worst case scenario. Either way, you are personally guaranteeing the lease. This means that you are personally on the hook for $600,000. The landlord is expecting $10,000 times 12 months, which is $120,000, times 5 years, that equals to $600,000. So let's think about that. It's kind of like you're taking out a loan at the bank for $600,000. The bank expects you to pay that back, and guess what? You are personally guaranteeing that loan. This is very similar to how lease works, guys. You are putting $600,000 on the table, and you're telling that landlord, I am going to personally guarantee you $600,000 in payments over the next 5 years for me to be able to use your space for my business. That's what a personal guarantee means in a lease. And this is why it's so important. And if for any reason during your lease term, you don't pay the monthly rent, okay, which puts you now in default, right? So make sure you understand what that means on your lease. Your lawyer should explain that to you. The landlord has all the rights to take you to court, which most of the cases you have to pay his legal fee as well as yours. And he will make you pay that amount. And in most cases, the decision is not going to be favorable to you. I will say that. This is extremely an important note to put down. If you're personally guaranteeing the lease for you or for anybody else, in the worst case scenario, your personal assets, your house, your car, whatever you have, your 401k even, right? Your retirement fund, all of this is on the line. And all of this is liable for the landlord to take back because that's what you signed on a lease because you guaranteed it personally. So what do? The absolute best case scenario, as I talked about, and probably you're thinking about as well, is that you negotiate your rent so that there is no guarantee at all, right? This is the best situation, and you should start with this when you are negotiating. That should be the start when you negotiate. Newer landlords who desperately need to fill in their centers, because guess what? Landlord has to pay somebody else as well. Most of them don't have $10 million to put onto a property to buy and build it with cash. Most likely they have some sort of a loan from a bank. They have to pay that loan. And in order to pay that loan, they have to have some sort of income that comes in. That's where your rent money comes in, right? That's how they make money in the line of business. So because they are newer, they may be open to this. They probably will be open to this. If you're savvy enough and you kind of know, what the landlord wants and what he needs, you can probably negotiate a way so that there's no guarantee. Especially if you're a proven operator, you can say, hey, look, I've got this business across town. I've done very well here in my financials. I know what to do. I'm going to open up a second location, right? That allows you to be more favorable in the eyes of the landlord. So that helps you to do that. All the landlord's thinking about is this person going to pay me and are they going to pay me on time? And will they stay on for this lease term that we are going to sign? I also like to work in a 30-day notice to vacate, or at the maximum, a 90-day notice to vacate. Maybe you have something like that for your students and members who attend your studio, right? You may have a 12-month agreement that they sign on, or a 3-year agreement, or you can have a month-to-month agreement, which allows them to give you 30 days to cancel and get out of the contract. So 30 days from that notice, any rent that is due is the only liability that you have. In our case, it's $10,000. That's not bad, okay? I'm going to start a business, and in the worst case scenario, I've shared with you guys with this in the past, I operate from a worst case scenario basis. If I can stomach that worst case scenario, I'm going to go for it. If my worst case scenario is I have to pay $10,000 to get out of my lease and be done with it, I'm okay with that. The reason why I always work from a worst case scenario and I like the no guarantee with 30-day notice to vacate is the thing is that sometimes another opportunity may open up. Okay, what I mean by this, maybe a better business location, a better location down the street that was not available to me at the time I opened up this business now becomes available. That space is now available. This allows me to start negotiating with that landlord down the street, which has a better space, which will allow me to have a better, bigger business. I can start negotiating with that person knowing 100% in confidence I already have a space in place and a lease in place. That's the best way to negotiate, by the way, right? If it doesn't work out, it's okay. I'm already in a space that I'm in. But if it does work out, I'm going to get a better space. I'm going to negotiate probably something pretty good. Then I can simply tell my current landlord, oh, by the way, the new landlord doesn't need to know that I'm the guy down the street, by the way. He just needs to know I'm starting a martial art business. So the best case scenario there, I signed this new lease with this new landlord for a better space, and I just have to tell my current landlord to give him 30 days notice. I pack up my mats and my belongings and my sign, and I literally move it down the street and flop it down. Okay? You're going to need 30 days to move, by the way, right? I tell my students, I move my stuff, and I kind of start with that. And if you did pretty well with this, you probably negotiated somewhere around 3 or 6 months of free rent. That's the best case scenario, right? Not only did you get a better space in this scenario, you will now have secured yourself 5 months of free rent because 30 days given to the current landlord, you have to pay him 1 month's rent. But when you move to the new space, you're not paying rent for another 5 months. Meanwhile, you're not a new business. You're a current existing business with income coming in. Bada boom. Look at that. If there's $10,000, you made yourself $50,000 that you can now put in maybe to your safe or a rainy day fund or anything like that. Or sometimes, life happens where you and your family need to move to a different state, or you simply cannot run your business anymore. This allows you to exit and close down your business with major liability. Maybe now you're understanding why I focus so much and attention to this personal guarantee, because it is literally a make it or break it for my business should I not successful or if I have another opportunity that I want to pursue. Here's the bad news though. Unless you are a major operator like Starbucks, or you own 30 plus locations, or your corporate umbrella entity has a ton of cash it may be hard for you to not have a guarantee. And even Starbucks and McDonald's, by the way, guys, have to sign on a guarantee. This is what we see in the commercial space, especially if the shopping center that you're looking at is one of the very best in the area, right? And location is everything. And if they have a wait list of businesses that are wanting to go in there, they're going to ask for a guarantee. The second best option at that point, right, if they're going to ask you for a guarantee, is you provide a corporate guarantee. This means that the business entity itself and the assets of the business is guaranteeing the lease and not you, the business owner. This means that at any time, if you decide to close your business, you need to give up all the assets of the business to the landlord. Okay, so the landlord's able to get, let's say your corporate entity is guaranteeing that, the landlord's going to go after the corporate entity. Okay, let's just say that you have one entity. Okay, you have one business and this is the only business that you have. And worst case scenario, you have to close down. This means that the assets in that business, any money that is in the business bank account that is owned by the business, which hopefully you have used all of it, paying out to payroll, maybe to yourself or somebody else, the mats that you have in the studio, the equipment that you have in the studio, and any vehicles that you own for the business that are under the business name is all assets that are now available to the landlord. That's what that means. But they cannot touch your personal finances. They can't come after you for your house, for your car, 401k, etc. Okay? You simply just shut the business down, give everything over, and you're done at that point, in the worst case scenario. Here's worse news. The two options that I presented to you just now, the no guarantee option with a X amount of days to vacate, preferably 30 days, and the corporate guarantee options, those two options obviously favors us, the business owner. Landlords are not stupid. They know this. Okay, so when they're negotiating with you, they probably have lawyers that have done this a lot more times than we have, and they're gonna ask you for terms that are more so in their favor. So in most cases, they may demand a personal guarantee because if they know that you're gonna put your name on it, you're gonna do everything that you can to make sure the business succeeds and you're gonna pay that rent. If there's no guarantee, or if there's a corporate, they know they can walk away easier. You don't have to try as hard, okay, in their opinion. So if you absolutely must have this space and the landlord is not budging on the personal guarantee, the next option that you have to do is you have to put a cap on the liability exposure, okay? An example of this would be instead of fully guaranteeing just the lease, you ask for a 6 months or 12 months personal rolling guarantee, okay? This is something I've done in the past and I continue to do if I have no other options. How's this different from just personally guaranteeing the whole lease? Let's just say that you sign a lease with a 6-month rolling guarantee in our example. This means that at any given time, you can simply tell your landlord, hey, I'm done with my business. And at that point, you will have to pay up to 6 months worth of any rent that is left over and you're done. So let's say 1 year into your 5-year lease, business is not going well, you have to shut down. In our scenario, at $10,000 per month, your maximum liability is you have to pay them $60,000 to exit or break the lease. All right? Instead of $600,000, guys, okay? Or at that point, let's say 1 year, you have 4 years left. 4 years times $120,000 per year is $480,000. $60,000 is a heck of a lot better than $480,000. All right? In most cases, I see like 10-year terms, which are close to like $700,000 to $800,000 or like $1 million in personal liability that is on the lease, which in most cases, this means the operator have to file for bankruptcy. That's the worst case scenario financially, because that is something that's going to severely impact us, me, you, the operator, for the rest of our lives. So this is why this is the most important part of your lease negotiation. Not the price, not the term, not the build out, the guarantee. Starts with the guarantee. Okay, and understand your liability, understand what you're signing for and what you're liable for and what the worst case scenario is, what will happen if your business doesn't work out. You have to understand that, okay? Your lawyer isn't going to be able to think about that for you. This is where you have to understand that. So I recommend, if you have not done so in a while, to take out the lease that you've already signed Or if you're working on a lease right now, review it to see what your liability exposure is, okay? So I want to leave you with this. At the end of the day, it's your business and it's your life. Always remember to put your business and your family first when it comes to any type of negotiation, okay? You got to fight and scratch for the best deal, because if you don't do it, no one else will, all right? That's the first thing, the most important thing when it comes to negotiation. You got to fight for the best deal, because at the end of the day, it's your business and your life, and no one cares except you. I'm excited to share more in the next 2 episodes about the other parts of the rent negotiation, rent prices, rent terms, build out, all that stuff. But none of that matters if we don't get this part right, which is your personal guarantee. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, please subscribe to our podcast. And if you haven't done so, check out mystudio.io. If you're already using us, I'm kindly asking you for a referral. Thank you. I'll see you on the next episode.